I'm Mohammed and Munir. Basically, say founder of Muqati Training Center. Got quite famous off of that in Khartoum, Sudan. Half Sudanese, half African American, Washington, D.C. And I kind of spent my life in both sides of the world, between Africa, almost half exactly, and the other half here in the States. Started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back in 2009. Of course, I wanted to get into MMA, saw the UFC, got hooked. And even though I was doing martial art before that, started doing Taekwondo in Sudan back when I was about 14 years old. And, but I got to a point I knew that was how to get into the cage. I signed up with Lloyd Irvin Academy out in Camp Springs, in Maryland. I started my first foundation, Muay Thai, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I remember Jiu-Jitsu was kind of a little awkward at the beginning. I wasn't all that comfortable, so I stuck with the wrestling classes. And I would come here and there, but I was more into the wrestling part and Muay Thai. Eventually I stopped for like 6 months, maybe, and that was like the beginning of 2010. And then I started to look for a place closer. Finally, I found Beta Academy, and I think it was 2010. And yeah, that's I feel like was really the beginning of my jiu-jitsu journey in particular. I was there for the next 5 years, basically up to 2005. I was promoted to blue belt by Professor Nakapan. And yeah, in 2015, I decided to move back to Sudan. I didn't sign up, but I kind of checked with a gym out there. And like I knew where I was gonna train, I knew where I was gonna work. I had all it set up. But while I was in Sudan, my plan was to stay there for like 3 to 4 months. When I was there, I looked for a place to train. I couldn't find. Finally, I found like a small area where guys were training like kickboxing. So I started training with them. The word spread out. Like this guy came from America, was training. By then, no one knew what jiu-jitsu was in Sudan. But I was a little popular regarding Muay Thai because I competed in 2014 here in WKA in Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, and I took gold in a tournament, fought 3 fights in a weekend, won them all. For Sudan, it's never been seen, and I had those videos, and I was showing the guys, so it made kind of like a big highlight, being a champion, and that was like the year right before, so it was still, social media was making noise and everything. So everyone wanted to kind of come and train with me, and it was all about Muay Thai. A little bit of the dedicated guys, there was a tournament coming up, which never happened, but they told us there was a tournament coming up, so I told them, man, what we're training, what we're doing now, was not going to get us through. And of course, I was used to, training with a fight team here, and it was like really serious, hard training. If you weren't 100%, they won't allow me to fight, right? So I was like, we got to do some more work. So we got into training in a park that it was like really in the middle. And we prepared for this event, and the event never happened. Maybe like 4 weeks, and then it never happened. And that's common, I'm sure, in a lot of countries in Africa, but definitely in Sudan, it happens a lot. People prepare for something, and it never goes through, especially in martial arts. So I was like, man, this vibe, the park is nice, why don't we just stay here? Like, why are we going back if I'm doing the whole teaching and everything, And eventually, the guys that stuck around that actually wanted to like train, they were more like training partners, It wasn't like, yo, you're gonna be the trainer and we're gonna learn from you. It was more like, let's train together, right? Right. So we picked 3 days a week. We stayed at the park, and I made my own system, and it was 1 day wrestling, 1 day jiu-jitsu, and that's where I introduced jiu-jitsu at the park. And we were like 4 of us at the time, and then Muay Thai 1 day. And it was in the park. In 1 month, we had dedicated, solid 12 members that were showing up just for jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai every day, every 3 times a week, coming to train on time, We did that for 3 months. After 3 months, we decided, man, we should just get a location, get a real place, and pitch in. First few months, pitched in, and we went on from there. When it was time for me to leave, which was about 3 months after I showed up, we were already 2 months in training with these guys who became like really friends. And you know how jiu-jitsu and all that, they become family like real quick, right? So for me, they were learning something from zero, and it was just my own conscious kid. I didn't feel like just get up and leave, So I kept pushing it. I was like, you know what? This was 2015. By then it was like October. I was like, let's finish this year, see what happens. By the end of the year, the team was bigger. Guys were more dedicated. You know, and then I was just like, you know, let's give it a shot. Let's see a location, see how it goes. Of course, I started working by then because I couldn't sit around doing nothing. When I started working, I was teaching English, teaching PE at a different school, and you know, so I had a job. So by then, when the school was established, the martial arts school, I just decided not to go anymore. We could say I have right now about five active blue belts. In total, close to 150 members. Huge team of dedicated of jiu-jitsu, even bigger than my Muay Thai team, even though the country is known for its boxing and stuff like that. Like, so when people show up for the gym, they usually don't show up for jiu-jitsu. They have no idea what jiu-jitsu is, but they show up for the boxing perspective. And once they get there, we introduce them to, you know, trying out all the classes, and then they can make a decision, all that. And usually once they feel the culture of jiu-jitsu and how it is, they usually sign up for both, but jiu-jitsu always wins. Beside the school, I run a promotion program regarding organized fights. All right, so it started as a smoker first. We did the first smoker in 2016. We were less than a year from our school started. And we were just, yo, like, let's do some Muay Thai and challenge some other gyms, you know. We were cool at the time. And, you know, and then we just started to grow from there. So far, we have done, we have an event called the Underground, Muqatil Underground Championships, which is an MMA perspective, amateur MMA, right? And it's on purpose. There's a lot of organizations there that on the continent that promote pro MMA, which is, you know, I disagree with it because there's no amateur at all. Where the level never grows. So you have pro guys fighting, they don't get paid, but they fight under pro rules, and they get signed up as pros, you know, and I was one of them. In 2016, and while I was here, my goal was to fight MMA. And before I went to Sudan in 2014 and 15, after I fought the WKA, I had 2 fights. At the time, it was Operation Octagon, I believe, here. And I had 2 fights that both fell out, right? And, you know, even one I was injured, but I was ready to go. And the guy pulled out like 2 days before the fight. So it was really hard. And then I made my MMA debut as a pro, no amateur fights, in Egypt in the end of 2016. And, you know, I had since then 3 fights, I won them all, but, you know, I had a lot of experience training. But for a lot of the guys who want to make it that way, they don't have opportunities to train amateur-wise and, you know, to get that opportunities to actually grow before going pro, right? And that's why they never make it, I believe, to like the UFC or so, or to big organizations, because they make all their mistakes in the pro record. The same record they carry with them later. You're gonna look at their record and be like, hey, we got too many losses. I'm never gonna sign this guy. The problem is he never had experience because he didn't fight before that. So the goal of the Underground is to create that opportunity and to have a platform where these guys compete and fight in an amateur where really they won't carry that record with them, and to develop. And so far we have done 5 events, have been great success. We basically at the point, the last 2 events we invite people from outside the country, get sponsors to fly them out. Last event was great. You know, I have my own things of connecting, but it was really great. After the new Sudan, after a new government, I made sure I brought the MMA team out of South Sudan to compete against my team, even though they're fighting. But it was the first real connection between the 2 nations after a new, you know, the past regime was the cause of the war that happened. So, you know, it was really good to see that opportunity, and they had a blast. And, you know, just the idea, a lot of these guys who came have never seen actually Khartoum. All they know is Khartoum, where the aircrafts fly off from the south. Yeah. The planes that come and bomb us growing up, that's where they come from. They don't know it, never seen it. So to come and actually see the people there and see how actually the people are different than that group that was ruling at the time, the country, is completely there. So it was amazing. It was a good experience for them, I think, and definitely start helping the talent grow. So we do the Underground events, and I also do fight nights, which are Muay Thai based, and we definitely do the Jiu-Jitsu events. So far I've done about, locally, about 6 Jiu-Jitsu events since we started.